weed your garden. See, chances are, if you're like any normal person, you have bad habits in your life. I have bad habits. Everybody has bad habits. No one's perfect. The problem is that a lot of people have more bad habits than others. And you see all these self-improvement content, all these self-improvement YouTubers like, oh yeah, mewing helps your jawline, or oh, try this new hair product to make your hair different, and just start meditating. All sorts of self-improvement advice, like meditation, things that are great. But you have the problem of people see this advice and say, oh, let me start doing that, let me start doing that, let me start doing that. The problem is they're too afraid to cut out the bad habits. They're too attached to them. They think, oh, doing drugs isn't that bad. Eating junk food isn't that bad. Drinking lots of alcohol isn't that bad. They're afraid to... You're afraid. If you're like these people, you're afraid to cut out these bad habits. I see it all the time. I see it all the time on YouTube and all sorts of things where people are like, oh, try this new mewing thing. But they're like obese, and you're not going to have the sharpest... You can mew all you want. You can mew 1,000 hours. But if you're overweight, you're not going to have the best jawline. So don't start mewing or doing anything. Honestly, I don't know why I'm talking about mewing so much. My brother talks about it. I don't know. Before you start doing these good habits, you have to take out the bad ones. It's the weeding a garden. You're not going to grow the best crop if your garden's full of nothing but weeds. I believe it was a quote from the Bible where Jesus said, your heart is like a garden. Now, I'm not quoting this exactly because I don't really remember the whole thing, but your heart is like a garden. And you have to remove the thorns and stones before you can grow the best crop. Because you have millions of things holding you back. Millions. And you're not going to plant. You can plant all the seeds you want, but they're just going to get choked out. You can start all these good habits like meditating and reading and all this stuff. But if you're watching TikTok for 5 hours a day, or scrolling through YouTube Shorts or whatever, you're not going to grow the best crop. You're not going to have the best attention span. Because that's the point of meditation. You improve your attention span. What's the point of meditating when you're just going to undo it all by watching TikTok or short form content? There's so much preventing you from doing things. Now back to that garden analogy. If you're hearing this advice and saying, oh yeah, I need to start removing bad habits from my life. I can't just start all these good habits. I gotta remove some bad ones. Don't go, I do this one, I do this one, I do that one, I do this one, I do this one, and you start listing all these bad things that you do, and then start trying to remove them all at once. It's never gonna work. Trust me, I've tried. It will never work. And the reason is, just like in the garden analogy, if you're weeding a garden, you see all these weeds in this garden, you can't weed them all at once. That's impossible. Unless you're like an octopus, you can like grow a bunch of arms and grab stuff. You can never weed it all at once. So instead, go one at a time, just like weeding a garden. You pull one weed, then you pull the next, then you pull the next, and you pull the next. And you keep doing this until eventually the garden has very few weeds. And if you're lucky, almost none. And then you plant your seeds. But remember, once you've planted your seeds, weeds are going to grow back again. So don't get lazy with this. Don't get lazy with your self-improvement because you have to think of the long term. You can't think in the short term. So don't get lazy with your self-improvement. Don't go to the gym, build a decent amount of muscle, and then quit going to the gym, and then you'll lose all your muscle. Because if you're not, if you don't use it you lose it. If you're not doing your bad habits, if you're not doing your good habits, your life is going to get worse. And eventually those habits are going to start to undo themselves. Because weeds grow back. So as you're, tending to these new good habits and helping them grow, remember to keep weeding. You see a good habit pull up. Don't let it grow into this huge bush that you eventually have to, eventually can't even rip out because it's too massive and its roots are too deep. Take out that bad habit before it gets too strong. So if you're doing drugs, but you want to be healthy, don't start eating healthy and going to the gym and all that stuff before you quit doing drugs. Quit the drugs, then grow your plants. That is the secret. That is, at least in my mind, this is kind of what I did. Think of your life, think of your heart as a garden and let it grow. That's all I got for today. Don't have dreams, have goals, and stay wild.